So let's talk about the Eldritch Invocations that we also find in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And for you, Joey, you'll probably have to go directly to the book to have a nice summation of all those. Now, what I really love, and this may be my favorite actual invocation type, is the Bond of the Talisman in general is really cool to me. So you've basically got a new option here, the Pact of the Talisman, that you can choose instead of the blade, instead of, the chain, instead of, the Book of Shadows. Now we have the Pact of the Talisman. Mm-hmm. Now this, very cool one. We saw this in UA, and what it basically does is you can give it to someone else. And as Jeremy Crawford said, it's great if you're, beneficial curious, right? Like most warlocks are pretty self-serving, but this allows you to help someone. So right out of the gate, if you're wearing this talisman, every time that you fail an ability check, you can roll 1d4 to potentially change that roll into a success. You can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. This is really handy for protecting someone you care about, or protecting yourself if you choose to wear it. And it's very much themed this exact same way as we move on. Now, we look into Bond of the Talisman. We're going to go through the order, not so much the level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so these are all going to be in alphabetical order, not necessarily by level you can choose.
Tell me about Bond of the Talisman. This is a 12th level Warlock Pact of the Talisman feature.
Yeah, this is something that only a small fraction of Warlocks are ever going to get because of its high level requirement. But it's a new thing that you can get with this Pact of the Talisman. While someone else is wearing your talisman, you can use your action to teleport to an unoccupied space closest to them, providing the two of you are on the same plane of existence. That's the only limitation on this, same plane of existence. The wearer of your talisman can do the same thing, using their action to teleport to you. The teleportation can be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and all expended uses are restored when you finish a long rest. Man, imagine how much you save on airfare with this.
Oh, yeah. Long distance relationships become a lot easier. I love this. And this is, again, like, I role play D&D with my wife, and we're always looking for mechanical ways to connect our characters. And the Bond of the Talisman is like a very good example of this. Imagine two warlocks, and I'll explain later, but like one that's Book of the Shadows and one that's Bond of the Talisman. You have these warlocks that are very kind of a perfect team in terms of protecting each other, communicating, all that stuff. So this is really fun.
Works great, especially if you have spells like Warding Bond or the magic items that do similar things like that. Shield Guardian. Yeah, very cool.
Warding Bond being one of my favorite spells of all time. Eldritch Mind is another invocation. This has no requirements. You gain an advantage on Constitution saving throws that maintain your concentration on a spell. This is great if you're playing like a warlock that's very into summoning. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of summoning spells in Tasha's.
This is just a good invocation to pick up with your Eldritch Adept feat as well. If you're a spellcaster who isn't quite into the sort of opportunity attack powers of Warcaster, just grab this one, and the Eldritch Adept feat also lets you change up which invocation you have. So this gives you a bit of flexibility. If you need Constitution saving throw concentration boosts, this is the one to take, or maybe you switch to something else later on.
Tell me about Far Scribe. This is 5th level, and this is for Pact of the Tome, and it really kind of makes Tome more interesting.
Yeah.
I think all of these make Pact of the Tome way more interesting, actually.
There's a couple of Pact of the Tome boosts here, which I think is well-deserved. A new page appears in your Book of Shadows, which is sort of the object of your Pact boon, of your Pact of the Tome. With your permission, a creature can use its action to write its name on that page, which contain a number of names equal to your proficiency bonus. You can cast the Sending spell, targeting a creature whose name is on the page without using a spell slot and without using material components. To do so, you must write the message on the page, and the target hears the message in their mind. And if the target replies, the message appears on the page rather than in your mind. The writing disappears after 1 minute. As an action, you can erase the name on the page by touching it. So keep your contacts list updated when you're using this one.
I love this. I love how evocative it is. I love that it's being written in the book instead of hearing it. And Plus, as a warlock, getting people to write their name in your book is like, there's something like a little bit yearbooky about it, but also like, you're a warlock. Like, how many people are going to trust you to write their name in your book of shadows? It's called the Book of Shadows.
It's an interesting quirk. They have to be the one who writes their name in it.
Yeah.
You can erase it, but only they can add their contact to your phone.
Bit of a trust fall, that.
Yeah.
Because we know how writing your name in books is never a bad thing in D&D. So we got something for the Pact of the Tome again. We have Gift of the Protectors. This is a 9th level warlock feature that you can choose. A new page appears in the Book of Shadows. With your permission, a creature can use its action to write its name on that page, which can contain a number of names equal to your proficiency bonus. When any of those creatures who wrote their name on this page is reduced to 0 hit points, but not completely killed outright, the creature magically drops to 1 hit point instead. Once this magic is triggered, no creature can benefit from it again until you finish a long rest. As an action, you can erase their name. This is really great. You're giving members of your party a zombie mechanic. It's very impressive, and you can
so
do this
cool.
Equal to your proficiency bonus, which by 9th level, you have got this permanent buff on your entire party.
So, and again, yeah, it's equal to your proficiency bonus, just like the sending one, which very much starts with who are your favorite tanky party members, and then or squishy party members for that matter. Right. Is it better to protect the guy who's taking damage all the time, or the guy who you don't want to take damage ever?
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, eventually, your whole party is covered by your insurance plan here,
and that's fantastic. And it's really solid. It makes Book of the Shadows way more insidious and interesting. Even though none of these are negative things, getting people to sign your book is very cool. I like it.
I think that if I were DMing for this, I would start to wonder, what are you really agreeing to when you sign this page?
Yeah.
Will a fiend or so forth start hounding you the first time that you are saved from death here?
Yeah, nothing like, not something mechanical, but does your patron suddenly take note, right? I'm not making a joke on there, but suddenly is aware of your existence when you do so. That's interesting. Tell me about Investment of the Chainmaster.
Investment of the Chainmaster seems like a good investment to me. When you cast Find Familiar, you infuse the summoned familiar with a measure of your eldritch power, granting it some additional benefits. And this doesn't have any level prerequisites, by the way. The familiar gains either a flying speed or a swimming speed of 40 feet. Cool. As a bonus action, you can command the familiar to take the attack action instead of just the other actions normally allowed to. Cool. The familiar's weapon attacks are considered magical for the purpose of overcoming immunity and resistance to damage. And if the familiar forces a creature to make a saving throw, it uses your spell save DC. And when the familiar takes damage, you can use your reaction to grant it resistance against that damage. So all of this put together, it doesn't say it explicitly, but this makes your familiar a combat familiar rather than simply a scouting, espionage, or delivering spells from a distance sort of familiar. I think it's good. It does make me think of the other new pets that are introduced, like the Artificer's Iron Defender, or what was the other one we talked about? I can't quite recall what other pet we've talked about in Tashas so far, but they all have this bonus action to command it to attack feature.
Yeah. I think this is really great, especially if you have an unusual, being that you're a warlock, you can get a little souped up, familiar. You can have like an imp. You can have a gazer eventually. Like these, combined with all this, they get quite tough.
It's really, it can really get quite strong. I will leave it to people who like to play Pact of the Chain Warlocks to kind of debate how strong this is, how worthwhile the investment of an invocation is. But it looks cool to me on the surface. I'm just not a very big pet class player most of the time.
Yeah, neither am I. So Protection of the Talisman. This is a 7th level Warlock Pact of the Talisman feature. When a wearer of your Talisman fails a saving throw, they can add a d4 to the roll, potentially turning that save into a success. The benefit can be used a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. All expended uses are restored after you finish a long rest. Again, really solid, and that might save them.
Normally,
like
the Talisman affects ability checks, right?
Correct. So before you're like, hey, maybe they're trying to be more persuasive, and the Talisman just gives them a little bit more of that power, right? You can kind of imagine them like wearing the one ring, and you're a little bit more intimidating as Sam Gamgee for about 2 seconds. So,
wow, and a talisman that's a ring. I always think of it as just being like an amulet, but you're right. It could be anything. It could be a ring, could be an earring, could be
a wedding ring. Could be
a wedding ring. Could be like a little forehead circlet. Could be any sort of thing.
It's a Horcrux.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got Rebuke of the Talisman, which is another really strong one, and this has no level restriction. So this is the one you want to kind of go for right away. Go ahead and tell me about this.
When the wearer of your talisman is hit by an attacker you can see within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to deal psychic damage to the attacker equal to your proficiency bonus and push it up to 10 feet away from the talisman's wearer. This is a very interestingly worded feature because you don't have to be the person wearing the talisman. That's kind of a core feature of this pack. You can give it to other people.
Yeah.
So if you're playing like a Hexblade Talisman Warlock, you can choose someone to kind of be the beneficiary of your protection while you wade out into battle yourself. And so there's a couple of interesting restrictions here. The attacker has to be within 30 feet of you, even though they're attacking someone who's wearing your thing. And this could mean that they could be using a bow, right? They could be using a bow or casting an attack cantrip from 100 feet away from the person they're attacking. But as long as they're near you, you can invoke your power and cause them to be rebuked.
Yeah. And this is fun because Warlocks already have a lot of push and pull abilities with their Eldritch Blast, and now you've got this on top of it. This could be a game changer for saving a party member. 30 feet is nothing to sneeze at, and could potentially put someone in a real bad spot.
Yeah.
Especially if you're running around flying ships of any kind, or if you're on a boat. That 30 feet's just enough to really ruin your day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's about the size of a classroom. Undying Servitude. This answers that question. And I knew that Animate Dead in the UA was included that in Life Transference, which was never going to work. But Animate Dead was included as a potential Warlock spell. And this solves this problem because, well, you would get to be able to cast Animate Dead way too often. Being a Warlock.
And this gives you a free once per day 3rd level spell slot to cast it. That's not bad.
No, it's not bad, and it's forcing you into a long rest instead of a short rest, and for good reason. I don't know that you're going to get to break this. Animate Dead's kind of hard to break in the sense that your DM. Listen, there are only so many bodies. You start making undead armies, you start losing friends. So that's our invocations for the Warlocks. I'm a little surprised we got through all of this.
The Warlocks have a lot to handle.
They got a lot. They got a lot going on.
They've got a lot of toys. They're a complicated class, but I hope that everyone watching has a slightly better understanding of some of the ins and outs of the Warlock class now that we've talked about them a little bit today.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for staying tuned, and congratulations to everyone. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The book is out right now on D&D Beyond. It's a fantastic book. It's one of my favorite. Great subclasses. Great alternate rules to use to kind of make your characters your own. Thank you, James Haeck, our lead writer at D&D Beyond, so much for being on Todd Talks. He's a fantastic writer, the writer of many a D&D book, and a very good friend. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is available now on D&D Beyond. Purchase before January 5th to unlock the Cauldron dice set, as well as character sheet backdrops, themes, and frames.